Europe, once in Opus Film, which resulted in Oscar for Ida and nomination for the Cold War. Today, Extreme Emotions, her own producer company, a very feminine one. I've been inside, some great women working there. They make films there, and also as a Kill It and Leave This Town, Golden Lions, Quo Vadis, Aida, also showered with praise and awards, and Silent Twins, again awarded film by Agnieszka Smoczyńska. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Ewa Puszczynska, especially for you. I'm leaving you with the audience. The microphone is here, or I can leave you this one. Can I just sit down and stand up? I don't like to speak ex cathedra, and I do not feel well on that stage. I would like to sit with you around the round table, that is, talking freely about anything. So I've already made a joke here that there will be no discussion. There will be no lecture. It will be a discussion. As Magda said, for the last 26 years, I've been working in this industry. I started out, of course, from advertising, which made me arrive at this place where I am. And I've been working like that for 24 years. I've been producing only for Opus Film, and then for different reasons I decided, being like a very mature lady, to dive at the deep end of the pool and to start doing something for myself, and hopefully also for the audience. Thankfully, it's been working so far, although not without hiccups, because I don't know if there are other producers here in the room. Yes, there are some people who are nodding their heads. So you know that our profession looks only on the outside, that is so glossy. Really, it's walking on the red hot stones. I would like to start with I hope we'll be able to discuss this, production and creativity, or creation. Because of course we do have a person who's a creative producer, but is production and creation, are these things which complement each other, or are these things which are totally different, or maybe are they things which are sort of, they have a common denominator, and production can be creative too? If you're nodding your heads, maybe you will say yes. And why do you think so? Why? Well, maybe I will be walking around with the microphone. Oh, there's a second microphone. I think there is a common denominator for both. There's some common denominator because a producer which has a creative idea for optimizing production, this is also an interesting cooperation. If you can say that we can do something in a different way, in a simpler way, maybe you might say that you do not need to perform something because it's unneeded. Yes, of course, this optimizes the production. Yes, but I hope that you would come to a conclusion that in every domain of our lives you can be creative, and you have to be creative. Of course, production, or the process of production, is and should be creative too, because any solution that will lead us to the making of the film, to the execution of the film within the time and on budget that we have, and sometimes it's very difficult, every solution is creative. And such creative solutions, not only at the artistic level, but also at the practical level, are of course very valuable. So even if we are producers, and nobody calls us creative producers, we also have to be creative. Talking about the creative producer, because you said that you can come up with creative solutions, how to make things easier, simpler, cheaper. And so in general, if you're talking about a creative director, everybody thinks about working with a scriptwriter or working with a director, working at the level of development, at the stage of development, and then at this stage, maybe even the production itself, maybe less, but then again, during the editing. Well, have you ever met such description, and do you agree with it? It's not a lecture, it's a discussion.
Hello?
Hello? Yes.
No, u nas ciągle jeszcze jest tradycja.
We still have the tradition that the director is the god and the director runs the business, and the head of production is just following orders. But it is changing, and the role of producer is getting more important, and the highest level of production is looking for topics, buying rights, finding for themes which might be interesting for the viewer, and selecting, proposing, suggesting the cooperation to the director. So this creative role is being developed, it's expanding. And now the question arises, who is more important? The director is an artist, but without a creative producer who supports them, it might be very difficult, especially in the current financial situation. Yeah, but let's put the finances aside for a while. But yeah, this is a very, very viable remark. It's a very good remark. We'll be following down that path soon. And now let's come back to that, to the two, at least, types of production. First, we have a production which is a pure producer-like production. As exactly like you said, we have an idea. You come up with a topic, you would like to make a film about it. We hire a scriptwriter, we read the script, then we find a director, etc. That's one thing, and we encounter it in Poland more and more often, but quite often, and I'm really sorry about that, but it's changing slowly. At the director or the author, you have both this. So, in other words, both the director and screenwriter in one person comes to the producer and says, "I would like you, Mr. Kowalski or Mrs. Puszczynska, to produce my film." And we're here, apart from this producer's creation, where do you have the possibility to create and cooperate? When this is a beloved baby of the director. It's written by the director. He has the vision of this whole film in his head. What can we do here? How can we here get to this question or problem of cooperation between the producer and the creator, the author? What is your ideal image of this cooperation?
Wydaje mi się, że taki producent
I believe that such a producer in the cooperation with the director and scriptwriter, the better he can understand the work they are making, the more he can support this director or scriptwriter. Because right now there is more and more sort of stress put on the producer being not only the Excel person, but also a person who could be able to understand the work on the artistic level, and then this cooperation between these two people can lead to success. Especially when in majority of cases it is so that the idea transgresses the budget, goes beyond the budget, and you have to combine all those elements together. And then, if a producer is creative, it might be easier for them. That is true. Okay, so now we got to this cooperation between the director, the scriptwriter, and the producer. And so in this case, as you said, producer is not the Excel person, because the producer right now, they do not work alone and they do not do Excel sheets by themselves. We're getting to the cooperation, which is also, please remember, it's all very emotional. Because creativity, this on the artistic level and on the producer's level, it's all based on emotions. all projects are being realized. I'm telling that from my own experience and what my colleagues tell me. Maybe that is changing right now. But my all projects, in all my projects, I make decisions myself. If something grabs me by the throat or grabs me by my heart, so I make my choices at the emotional level. Let's remember also that the authors who are coming to us with their projects, they also have very deep emotions related to what they did and to what they wrote. And now we're getting on this path which says that the producer is not the Excel guy, the money guy, but the producer is also, quite often, and maybe always, should be a psychologist of sorts. The producer should try to understand the emotions that accompany the author and see how the producer's emotions related to that project can work together or disagree, maybe, or not, with the emotions of the author. Please note that production is not only Excel and money, but at every stage, starting from development, these are human emotions, these are humans, and you should remember about that if you want to spend several years of your life, because that's the duration of the process of making a film, with these people on this selected project. Should the producer manipulate? Is manipulation a tool which the producer should or could be making use of? Ethically, no, but sometimes you have no other choice.
Etycznie wątpliwe i takie budzi opór.
Ethically, it's dubious, but sometimes it can be manipulation for the good, and it might be necessary. Are there any other points of view on that? I must say that I prefer openness and transparency and discussion, dialogue, because you can't work out in any other way. This is sometimes the director thinks that some scene is necessary to tell a story in the film. It's one of the most expensive scenes, and then it occurs that it just doesn't work, and the film works well without that scene, even though the producers recommended that we should avoid that scene because of the time constraints, money constraints. And here the emotions kick in, and you have to know how much, to what extent it is important to this scene is important to the director. This might also refer to any other thing, for example, the costume of the actor or whatever else, anything that generates costs. But I think you can also you should discuss. Okay, so how do you understand manipulation? What does it mean for you? Manipulation is a lie, which is to be used for achieving the goal. Well, maybe not a lie. Maybe some minor untruth, or maybe our version of the truth, but it is something that is usually morally. This word evokes certain unease, if not revulsion. I do understand. I do agree with you. I'm also with you about transparency and putting your cards on the table, but sometimes. I suppose you are aware of that that authors are also trying to manipulate us. Right? So, if I know that he tries to manipulate me, and I know how to find my place in this game, and I can feign that I'm doing what they want me to do because they manipulate us, but I also manipulate the other way around, we meet somewhere halfway. We'll not delve on this because it's we can talk for hours on end what manipulation is and how it works. But I want you to realize that such situations happen, and both sides try to manipulate the other party, even if ever so slightly. And so if we can find our own place and then we are open and transparent to each other, then you have to understand that this is an emotional sort of behavior. All this is whatever we do, all that is based on emotions, and all is very subjective. There are subjective assessments, subjective emotions on both sides. And the core is that the production should be efficient and that we like each other at the end of it, and that we would want to do other films together later. We have to find the balance, the point zero, to make everybody satisfied with what's happening. And about emotions. Again, I was invited here and I came here in this glory of success and fame. I must say that this is very, very pleasant. However, I recently had this experience, which for me is a very important one, a very positive one. One of the movies that we introduced to the cinemas was the film by Tomek Wasilewski. We are both very open in terms of names, name dropping with Tomek Wasilewski. The film that we absolutely love. We do not regret a minute of the time we spent on film, and it occurred to be not understandable for the majority of the people who saw that movie. And now, these are also our emotions. Our emotions of being unhappy, of being resentful, that why didn't they understand, etc. All that is very subjective. The film was shown in several festivals. It was shown in Gdynia. Of course, it was there. Nobody mentioned that. I'm talking about emotions. I'm in festivals until the very end, and I requested that I will go down the red carpet, not only as a juror, not only as a co-producer of Silent Twins, but also as a producer of The Fools. And my director is running away because nobody noticed the film. Tomek decided that he's leaving. That is unfortunately a common practice of people who are making a film and who do not get an award or do not get noticed in a festival. He left. And I reacted. Again, this is emotion again. For me, this is totally unacceptable, because that means that what? That we cut ourselves off from our film, the one that we believed in and we still believe in, but it's like within our own minds. These emotions I'm trying to show you, these emotions in our movies are accompanying us from the very beginning until the very end. We are accompanied by emotions. That's why this job, you get such a burnout in this job, because we're fueled by emotions. This is how it happens with me. But I think you can all agree with it, that these emotions are a very big element of what we're working on. Whatever we do is very subjective. We do not have the template for art. If you do not have the template for art, everything is dependent on the moment and on the group of people who judge our work. Right? At any given moment, this group of people got together, they had this, they experienced this and that, they have this sort of taste, and they live in those times, and our movie gets unnoticed by them. There are other movies who are better for them, but remember that in the majority of cases, that means that only that group did not value our film. It doesn't mean that our movie is bad. Only because it didn't get to the A-rate festival, which we would really want to get to, like Berlin, Cannes, San Sebastian, etc. The Warsaw film is also A-class, and Karlove Vary is also A-class. But these we tend to oversee these two festivals. You have to remember about that. Everything is subjective. Everything is emotional. And I repeat that to all the directors. The fact that we didn't get to the festival doesn't mean that our film is bad. The fact that we didn't get the award doesn't mean that our film is bad. It will be liked by other people at other times in different moments. Maybe in 3-4 years. Maybe we are ahead of our times, and maybe we are late with our movie. So much about emotions at this moment. However, I would like to, again, this is a discussion, not a lecture. In your producers, creative moments that you have, those moments that you were governed by emotions. You can be governed, and you can have positive results or negative results. Will you share examples like of that, Marta? I'm looking at you. I was approached by my director, from whom I didn't answer her calls for 2 weeks. It's a nice surprise. And she said that I announced on the Facebook that I will be here, so I did myself in. I think the most emotional moment that accompanied me recently was the moment when I was getting the award in Kraków, and I was not able to thank anybody from the stage. I was really I was stunned by this situation. I'm not talking about the award for the best producer, but we got an award, and I had the situation. Several people, maybe one people were angry with me that I didn't say sorry, but I think that was cherry on top of this emotional roller coaster, because for 3 years I was totally focused to produce the film and make it as good as possible, and then it occurred that I cannot accept the success. I cannot celebrate the success. I cannot physically and mentally experience that. Yeah, so good emotions which are also destructive. They can be destructive at any given moment. They take away our gift of speech. But these are good emotions because this is the emotion of joy. Yes, this is the emotion of joy, but this made me realize that you always have to be aware and embedded in a presence, and you cannot leave the role of a producer, and you have to be in the role all the time. And even if you're overtaken by these emotions, you have to find a way, and it's working over yourself to uphold this situation, because we all know how easily we can be thrown off our track or of our balance, and I feel I'm still working on it, and I have to learn it, and I will learn it until the end of my life. I'm here. I wanted to say the other way around. I didn't get the award yet, but I'm waiting for these emotions. However, I think we are a sort of a filmmaking family. Even with the people I'm with or cooperate as a DOP or as a director, these are not the people to whom I'm emotionally indifferent. These are the people I learned to work with, because I also learned with whom I don't want to cooperate, because if there are no emotions, the work doesn't doesn't start. I mean, nobody makes you pissed off as much as your child and your partner, and the other way around. And it's very similar in case of our industry. It's the process of getting to, getting a hang of doing it together, of trusting each other, and without the emotions, it doesn't work. Exactly. Because that's why emotions accompany us in this process of production. So emotionally, I would like to talk to you about another thing. You're producers here, at least some of you, and probably you have your own movies. And tell me, what is the difference? Can you see the difference? Because I can see it. I painfully learned it myself between being the film producer and entrepreneur. It doesn't sound as much as well in Polish. So, which means entrepreneur, somebody who runs and manages a business, not one project of this company, but of this business, but runs the whole business. Of course, you can say that each movie is a company of sorts. But if we want to run a company which is to develop, of course, we can have special purpose vehicle, as they say. So it's a very popular in the Western world that you set up a company for concrete projects. So in case anything goes wrong, only this project goes bust. This one company that was business that was created only for the needs of that film and not all our enterprise. And because it is not as popular yet in Poland, we do have our companies, our businesses, bigger and smaller, which we have to manage in a way or somehow. Now, please share with me your experience. I can share my experience with you. For 23, 24 years, I've been producing only for Opus Film. And that's how my contract was signed. I could produce only for them. I had a lot of freedom there. I could find the projects myself. I would come with that to Piotr Dzięcioł, the owner, and said, Piotr, I would like to do that. And he always said, okay, if you finance it, you can do it. So I financed it myself and I did it. And that's how I, for example, produced Ida or Zimna Wojna, the Cold War, the projects I'm very proud of. However, I was doing only that one project because usually I did only one project, not several at once. And yes, I was dealing with it from the beginning until the end. From the development, production, post-production, distribution, and in festivals and awards. I also took part in organization and even walks down the red carpet. But I didn't really care at all what's happening in the business, whether this business has money or doesn't have money, whether it's in the red, in the green, what it does, because I knew that Opus is also making commercials. Right now they're making usually mainly TV shows, and that in those times we didn't do TV shows, they were feature films, but the financial condition of the company was only important for me so much as I would go to the financial director and I asked him, Boguś, how are the accounts, because I need some cash flow. And that was the only thing that was of concern for me. Right now, since I decided to go my own way, it occurred that this is a huge problem, and this is a big skill which I, in reality, do not have. I'm betraying to you my dirty secrets. That doesn't mean that I will go bust in a while and I go to jail because the company is doing its work, but this is a totally different question. And what do you have to do to make this company work, to make it get out of debt? I do have some debts, but I'm getting out of them right now. So So this knowledge, how to make it work, and because I'm the only producer also in my company, you have to have also a piece of your brain devoted to production and creation of individual films. Do you have any medicine for that? Because I will tell you in a moment what is my approach. But I wanted to ask it first from you. I mean, guys, you are running companies, don't you, or businesses? Let's share. We have the same problem. Maybe we have different solutions. Hi. At the moment, I'm not doing any commercial projects to make my feature film, and I'll see if it's gonna work for me. Probably I will hear some solution in a while. So you have a company, but are you a producer or a director? I have a company, creation and production, and I'm doing short clips and short video materials. What was the question again? How do you deal with the problem with running the project and running the business? I stopped running the business. I do have one more department, which I led to the moment in which they're running by themselves. It's a graphical department, and they are earning the money. Okay, so you found the solution. Yes, after 10 years. Yes, but you got the solution. So you have this part of the business that will keep you afloat if you decide to resign from all other commercial projects. Yes? Yes, that's an attempt. This will allow you to make the feature film as a producer or as a director? As a creative producer. Okay. Any other solution? In many companies, there is a trick that they employ an operating director who's responsible for the development of a company. They are not the founder. The founder has the final say and the final right to pass the final decisions. But the COO is responsible for strategy, looking for new ways of development or getting new funds. The company can produce, for example, feature films, but at the same time create a daughter company that would be responsible for smaller productions, and at the same time for a constant so that cash flow is on the right side of the force, and that quite often it is also so that being an entrepreneur, we lose sight of the quality of our other roles in terms of our focus. So quite often a good practice is to delegate this to persons or assistants or advisors, whatever you call them, who would know how to develop a business, and they would have those skills in management and business, because this business part in terms of producing is very important, and we have the competences, but quite often in other types of production companies we do not have the time to achieve those to gain those business competences. So it's good to have a consultant who will show us where our money is leaking out, where we're losing money because people are not doing the job, or they're not earning enough money, and will help us fill the leaks. I was thinking, my name is Dorota, I was thinking, because what you're saying was also for me a difficult thing in the beginning, because with my business partner, we got to the point when he got more into a commercial side of our business, and I focused on the developments and of feature films. But we can see that this commercial side starts to be a bit wobbly, and this requires more engagement of the owner of the company. We as producers, it's not easy for us, I'm referring to what you said, to find somebody whom we could trust and who would have the knowledge in running the company in the economical context, the business context. We know that you can earn on films, but it's in the later stage. Right now, we're in the beginning. There's always a huge investment. So here, we have one leg which is commercial, and the other one is the feature films and documentaries. But this is very difficult because before we made this separation, I was working in 4 functions in our two-person team, two-piece team, and now if I think that I were to invite a third person to join the company who would be the business leader, I'm afraid. I do have my doubts because it's difficult. It's like with selection with the author with whom you will cooperate. This is the same story here. This is the aspect. You have to trust that somebody will be managing such a company in a very sensible way. On the other hand, you have to have the money to pay them. Absolutely. So we're in a certain vicious circle here, and that's a big problem. And of course, I managed to pull it off because it's one of the persons you've mentioned, the assistant. Opus was left by my whole team. One of the girls is very creative when it comes to financial management. How money should flow, where you should take it from, and this, thanks to her control right now, this company did not drown. Our head is still above the water. However, it is also such a situation that sometimes business requirements tell us that no Pawlikowski, no Little, no Jordan Glazer. Here we should make another romantic comedy or something like this. Or maybe 5 other TV shows for Viaplay, Netflix, etc. And my producer's soul says, leave me alone, I don't do this. And here we once again we get to the emotional problems that we have. But I absolutely agree with you that there should be someone who at least some of work in film will devote to manage this money. You enumerated here also. You listed here also something that is very important, not only in a producer's company, but in different types of businesses, is the diversification of risks, diversification of income, where we risk, where we can lose our money, and where we avoid any risk whatsoever, and we hope that we will gain something, and that will allow us to cash flow our company. I wanted to ask you another question, so if we're talking about cash flow. Do you think that good tools for cash flowing projects, that's a small digression, I think that cash flow right now, both of companies and projects, is our biggest producer's problem, because it's very difficult to budget companies and finance companies, but de facto, slowly we're struggling, we can do it. However, any money that we manage to get together, they usually come in installments, or they come late. Here the best example is the money from the Polish Film Institute. The first 50% at signing the contract, and the second 20% when they agree and they will get the financial report of the spending of the final of the first 50%. And unfortunately PISF is not very fast, so what should I do? Break the production, interrupt the production before to wait for your signature? I can't do it. With all the from all the funds you get money in installments. So what we need this cash flow. So let's start with the cash flow of individual projects. Do you think that if we had tools and easier cash flowing of projects, would that help you? Would that help us to cash flow the company? Yes, why? Yes, why? Mental comfort for creating emotion again. Anything else? Well, certainly that will be more helpful from the situation that when we do not know where the money flows in. So at least you can put away some amount of money. You can invest a bit. You can regain it from something else, and that would help us. Absolutely. Let's say we have the overheads, for example, which we usually put on budgets. Sometimes it's an input in kind. Sometimes you have the producer's input. If we had cash flowing, then from each project there would be some minimal amount which would stay in the accounts of the company. So that would help us a lot. We said about. Let's go back to cash flowing and to lack of tools. So how do you manage? If you have no tools for cash flowing, you make a film. How do you manage? Where do you get the money? You're not stealing them, are you? Sławek, don't say that. Most often young producers usually deduct it from their own fee. Yeah. I never take a fee.
No tak, no bo co, nie zapłacisz podatku, nie zapłacisz...
Why? You wouldn't pay the tax, you wouldn't pay the social security, you have to pay certain things.
Najczęściej to idzie z tego.
Usually it's from that money.
Kosztów, pewnie renegocjacje i tak to wygląda.
Cutting costs, renegotiation, and this is what it looks like. Anything else? I have a question because you said about overheads. I think this is a comfortable situation when we make a TV show for a platform, because in case of piece financing, you do not have the possibility of having overheads. Is there? Yes, there is a way out of this situation. I wanted to say that in case of my company, I'm using the tool of for diversification. We're producing VR stories, animations that are usually done by my brother because he's extremely talented. So he's directing them, animating, modeling. So I have a person who can do this. That allows us to have liquidity, and just because I had a micro budget and a VR project at the same time, I could transfer the resources from one project to another, and only thanks to that I didn't end up with some great debts, because many young producers are right now calling me and asking, how did I get 200,000 to pay the VAT, for example. That VAT is a huge problem, especially when you're VAT payer. Many people do not want to undertake production just because these companies do not work yet. They do not have the momentum. They do not have the good accounting service, and that discourages them from applying for financing. Yes, this is extremely difficult. I also said that I'm also putting my fee in the budget just because right now, no matter how many films I did, as an independent producer who makes the films by themselves, I'm in a just slightly better situation than yourselves. So right now, apart from diversifications, yes, is for example making several films. Like for example, you said you did micro budget, you make a feature, you made a VR. So in your view, making 3 movies at different stages. So for example, we have a film in development, a film in production, and post-production. Would that help to cash flow the company? Well, I wrote down that some people say that it's 6. During the Ewa, I learned from Linda Beast. She said about 6 movies. And I must tell you frankly, because right now still a participant of the workshop, I really felt my hair raising on my head, because I don't, well, if I'm a one-person company, that means a lot. Unless I don't know. This is a lot of projects. I don't know how many you had at one time. I had 2 productions at one time, and I made a TV show for Opus. Because Sony, which did that, it was the second part of Ultraviolet. They requested that I produce the second series. So these were 3 projects that I had at the same time. 2 in production, as one TV show for Tomek, Jonathan Glazer's movie, and a TV show. Vals is also a little for us. Remember that there is the institution of getting the VAT back, getting the VAT refund. You have to really look at this, because this is sometimes a really big money. I can also add here, if you were making a large production or co-production, then yes, if the money is there. I'm talking right now specifically about the film of Jonathan Glazer. We got a big financing from Poland, because 45 shooting days they all were made in Poland. We got a grant and regional funds, and we had quite a lot of money from Poland. But we had this financing also from UK. We also had financing from the United States. The finance people, because apart from the money from Poland, I put them all in one basket, which is called financiers. So, and we signed one contract with them. We've managed to agree with them so that they cash flowed our VAT. So please remember that if you're making co-productions, even local ones, especially even with somebody from abroad, also big ones, you have to ask for the possibility, or struggle for the possibility for the co-financing party to finance your VAT, or cash flow your VAT. So when you will be getting a VAT refund, tax return, this is the grounds for a VAT refund, and putting the VAT again in the budget of the project or the company. So you have to think about that possibility too. I wanted to also tell you that the services which are currently unfortunately got frozen due to the war in Ukraine, that it is also a very good source of income, because then you have to sign a contract and have a security so that you will be paid for what you do here for them. And the best solution is to ask them to set up an escrow account. You know that in the escrow account there is money for your service, and you have to sign the contract so that you have the authorization, the POA to manage this account, so that once your service is delivered, this money is freed and it goes into your account. Please remember about that, because this might be a smaller service or bigger service. This can be also something that gives you a certain breather. And again, we're coming back to what Marta said. We're lending money from one project to another, but be careful about that. Be careful and really keep track of where you put your money, because later, if you will not be in control of that, then it will occur that you don't know what is where, what was taken where, and where it went. And then you have to sit and calculate, check all the account reports, and to see if you do not have any hole gaping in any project, and if it got balanced out, because we we get money from one project, hoping that there will be money from another project that will fill that gap, and then it might occur that something went wrong. Also, if we take that into from a general company account or from one project to another, it might be so that we also spend not only for the project, but also about just the operations of the company, because you have to go somewhere, you have to pay the consultant, you have to travel, and if we spend this money for something else, even if they come back, the money, if we get back the money that was sort of for example, let's say we have 20,000. We have to know that we had to do something. For example, pay back to PiS, to Polish Film Institute. Let's say my partner cheated me, who said that he has the right to the project, and I had to resign. When we started to prepare the contract, it occurred that the rights are not there, so I resigned from development, but I had to give back money to PiS. And of course, 200,000 was already managed somewhere else. So you have to remember about that. I hope nobody from PiS will watch that, because this is something you shouldn't do. You shouldn't transfer money from one project to another. But let them know that these are the problems that we have. We were talking about emotions, about money, about cash flows. But I wanted also to tackle, I think we still have a few minutes, or not? Still 4 minutes to go. No, I'm finishing right now. I'll see what's important here from what I wrote down. Maybe you have some concrete questions to me. What is the role of the producer in casting? Are you participating in castings for individual productions or not? Or is it a decision of the director? I might talk here only about my experience. I always took part in the productions that I did. If we're talking about minority co-productions, for example, I was asked twice for a council. But in my projects, where I'm the main producer, yes, I take part in all this, even if we agree that the final say stays with the director. If we do not agree, but yes, I participate, and I'm usually asked for counsel. I will give you then an example. I come back to The Fools by Tomasz. Tomasz had an idea to have Dorota Kolak, and he wrote for her. Initially, she didn't want to play that role, so we were looking on, and he had an idea for another person. No names dropped, and when I said no, absolutely, I don't like this, no, I think it's a bad decision, but he was being stubborn, so I said, okay, let's do testing shots, camera, scene, and let's do the testing shot. And I didn't know that person before personally, only from the screen, from the stage, but we've never met. But when she came to the set and we drank tea together, I thought, I think he might be right. I was wrong. She has the energy which convinced me that he might be right. But then we made the test shooting, and Tomek watched them first, and he called me and said, listen, you are right, this is horrible. This is horrible. So at the end of the day, I watched it, and yes, well, it was hopeless. So we decided to make a normal casting. We invited actresses, they had to be of a certain age, and we made choice, and we started to prepare the roles. There were rehearsals. She went to the sea to get acquainted better. It was a very intimate role, very intimate scenes, a very difficult one. But at some point, it occurred that the dynamics of emotions changed so much that we were not able to work with her. It was just impossible.
oczywiście po rozmowie z Tomkiem, ja wspólnie, to była wspólna decyzja.
We had to make the decision together with Tomasz, but I had to grab the phone and have a meeting and said, I'm sorry for this and this reason we have to resign from our cooperation. And that's what happened.
A cały czas w głowie ta Dorota Kolak. Cały czas.
And we still had Dorota Kolak in our head. And at the end of the day, I've met with Dorota twice. But please, also it helped a lot that we had rehearsals with the actors and we were reading this script and it changed during those scripts. And she took part in all that because she had a different role, which was ultimately played by Marta Nieradkiewicz. And she saw how this was evolving, how it's not a story from the grocery shop, but it's an antique tragedy, you know. Sorry, like an ancient Greek tragedy. So we agreed to meet in Krakow. We drank a lot of wine, and Dorota said, "Yes, I agree." And she played fantastically. So if you have a chance to see the movie, which is difficult, it's not an easy one. It's difficult to shed it. It's quite sometimes difficult to sit until the end in the cinema. So please see it because of the role of Dorota Kolak, who I think she's ingenious. My time is done. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you for the invitation. And that's all from me. Thanks.